Welcome, this is Maya Dynamics Level 1, Week 12, final lesson. Today is going to be an open class. It's a Q&A more than anything. Ideally, we're still waiting for a couple of students to log in. But the idea is that, Shobana, now that you are here in the class, then you can please start posting any questions that you have about everything that we've spoken over the first 12 weeks or 11 weeks of class. Anything, if you want to share a scene file, you can share your screen with us, and then we can review it together. If you have done any testing and you want to show any play blast, we can go over that as well. So it's up to you to start posting your questions over here. Okay. Okay, perfect. So there is the first question: how to make particles morph from one object to another. Okay, let's talk a little bit more about that. So I'm going to start sharing my desktop. Keep typing more questions as you think of them. Keep putting them there, and I go one by one. Okay, so to make particles morph from one object to another, I'm going to make simple examples so we can go quickly. Okay, cube in a sphere. Can probably scale that up. Okay, so, and I'm going to make an emitter. So I'm going to go and I'm going to create just regular particles. Okay, so I'm going to place my emitter right in the middle of these two guys. So you know that this will give us particles over here. So let's say that I want to have particles go from this emitter to the sphere and then morph into the cube. Okay, so first you have to select the particles and shift select the sphere, and you're going to go into under particles, goal. Okay, there's nothing here special, leave it as it is, and hit create. And then I'm going to get the particles one more time, and I'm going to select now the cube, and I'm going to do the same. So particles, goal. This will create under the particles, okay, it creates two goal weight attributes right here, okay. So goal weight 0 is the first one, which corresponds to the sphere. Goal weight 1 corresponds to the cube. And each one of them at the moment has a value of 0.5. So this is not going to be helpful for you because it's just going to leave the particles split. So particles are attracted 50% to the sphere, 50% to the cube. So they're going to stay right in the middle, and they're going to behave all funny. So they do this kind of stuff. So it's not a cube, it's not a sphere, it's some weird, but it's interesting. You see that I always like to try these things because look at the result. You end up with, it's a cool thing to think, right? So you end up with spheres, which because they're gold 50% to them, but you also end up with particles kind of taking the position of the vertices of the cube, because you know that by default, when you gold particles to surfaces, the particles will attach themselves to the vertices. We kind of cover that, and you can always go back to the video recording of week 6, I believe, 6 or 7, and see that part. But you can see the result is quite interesting. So if you ever have to do something that look like this, then you got how to do it. But this is not exactly what you need. So what you need is first to be goal completely to one object. Okay, so I'm gonna rewind, and now the goal. And I'm going to put a limit on the amount of particles just to get the effect looking better, right? So I'm going to say that 3,500 particles is enough, okay? That way we get that kind of result where you get the particles, like I was saying, on top of the vertices of the sphere. Because we don't want that either. I'm pretty sure you don't want that. You want the particles spread all over the sphere. Then basically all we need to do is go into the particle shape, general, and then add goal U and goal V, and by adding these two, the particles are going to be free to attach themselves whatever they want. Not automatically, okay. The behavior is still kind of funky because you need to put an expression in here. Okay, so if you pause that and then go into creation, I'm going to say that the goal U is equal a random number between 0 and 1. And how do I know that? Well, because when you create a sphere or any predefined piece of geometry from Maya, from the Create Polygon menu, those objects come with the UVs normalized. Okay, so normalized UVs means they go from 0 to 1. If you have your own piece of geometry, then remember, again, it's covered in week 6 and 7 of this course, but you need to normalize the UVs, make sure that they live in a space between 0 and 1. That way it's easy for you to do this kind of stuff that I'm doing with the expressions, when I can just say, for example, the same, goal V is equal a random number between 0 and 1. And remember, when you put the random function and you put one number only, okay, inside the parentheses, automatically thinks that the lower value is going to be 0. So this is just a shortcut, okay, to type a little bit less. So by doing this, now the particles will be free to place themselves whatever they want on the sphere. Okay, so you will see that, okay, they will take the position. Great. Okay, so they are on the sphere. So if I want to make them morph from the sphere to the cube, I will basically have to keyframe, okay, this relationship, where right now they're gold only with 50% of strength to the sphere and nothing to the cube. And then I'm going to give them some time, okay, to be here and really read as a sphere, okay, and then start, I'm going to keyframe this again so the relationship remains. And then slowly I'm going to give it some time, and I'm going to say that by this point the relationship is the inverse, when they have nothing to the sphere and 50%, or it can be 100%, whatever you want, to the cube. Okay, so I'm going to key that. And now we're going to we're going to play back the result. Okay, so attract it to the sphere first. Okay, you can see the keyframes down here. So there we go. They stay as a sphere, they remain as a sphere, and then they start to morph into the cube. How smooth the transition will be will depend only on how much time you give it to go from this object to that object. That's all. So there you go. And now they are a cube. If you wanted to go back to sphere, you can just keyframe this again. Or for example, you want to set them free. I don't know. Or just let's say they go back to the sphere. You can do this with as many objects as you want, of course. Then we're going to give them some more time so you can see a smoother transition. So I'm going to give them about 100 frames, and then again we invert this. Keyframe this too. And now we'll play it one last time. And I'm going to play without the geometry so you can see just the particles. So there we go. You have something going on there. I want to make sure, no, it's fine. No, never mind. But let me just double check that I'm playing back correctly. Yeah, that's good. So there you go. They form a sphere, easily readable as a sphere made of particles. There's some time there to play. And then they go into a cube. They stay as a cube. And then they come back slowly back to a sphere. Yes, you can put force fields, you can do many other things to make it better, but in a nutshell, that's how you do it. Cool? Is that clear? Alright, that's good. I'm glad that very clear. That's perfect. You have any other question? If you don't have one right away, no, doesn't matter. I have one from Julius, which is weird because he sent me the questions, but I don't think he's definitely not in the class. So anyway, I'm gonna read what Keep typing. I need more from you, Giovanni. If you have more, please go ahead. But in the meantime, I'm gonna see if I can help Julius, at least on the recording. What is the best way to set up rigid body and rigid body simulations? Well, the best way to set them up is not using Maya rigid bodies. You will think, right? You will think that that's the best way to go, but it's not. My suggestion: rigid body simulations are covered in depth, okay, very, very heavily on the master class level, okay, on level 3. So I would recommend to you to go to our website. Let me just there we go. No, that's not what I want. Okay, so if you go to our website, this level, it's called Masterclass: The Art of Destruction. go in here and watch the first few weeks. Not all of it is based on rigid body simulations, but at least I think the first 4 or 5 weeks are. Okay, so feel free to go in here, and then you will see the best way that I find to set up rigid body simulations. Okay, so it's using a plugin called Pull Down It. So yeah, it's worth watching those videos if Julius, you're interested. Shabana, I still don't see questions from you, but I will type them please, so I can do one for Julius, one for you. I will keep going in the meantime. How and when do you use baking and caching of particles and other dynamics? Good question. If you're working in production, and this is the way to go. I mean, if you're working in production and you have access to a render farm, okay, so let's say that we're going to render Shabana's particle morphing simulation. Okay, so we're done. This is it, and this simulation is about 600 frames long. Excuse me. So and let's pretend, let's use your imagination and think that instead of having 3,500 particles, we have 35 million particles. So that is not going to be nice to render in one machine. It's going to take too much time. You have a deadline. You have to deliver this thing. Then what you do in that case is cache your particles. Okay, so to cache your particles, we talked about it, I believe, but if not, just select the particles on their solvers. You're going to go to create particle disk cache. Okay, I'm not going to run it because there's not much point of that, but you can specify either the selected particles that you have, and let's say that you have multiple particle systems and you want to cache just one. You can do it based on selection or cache everything that is dynamic. By that I don't mean fluids or cloud. I'm sorry, I mean more particles and springs in that case. So you cache them out. Basically what's going to happen, Maya's going to write out a text file with the position, the velocity, and some of the attributes that the particles have. They're going to be written out to disk. That way the simulation is not actually taking place anymore. You're basically reading from a text file and recreating the particles on the spot. The reason for that is that, like I'm saying, if you had to render this on a render farm, and you're going to split it between 600 machines, let's say. Okay, let's say you have 600 render nodes, and each machine is going to render one frame. If you don't cache them out, each machine is going to have to simulate up to the frame that they need to render. At the beginning, it's not a problem. Frame 1, 2, 20, that's not a big deal. But imagine a machine rendering frame 500, and you have to simulate 500 frames and then render. And let's say that your simulation takes 8 hours to simulate. So that render is not going to happen. So if you cache them, then each render node has the ability to go and find the cache frame that, the actual specific text file for that frame and run it right away. So that is the main reason to cache your simulation. Another reason, if you're working locally at home, let's say that you have a client, okay? You're doing a freelance project and the client likes your simulation and all you have to do is render it multiple times. I said that they like the movement of the particles, and now you have to work on the rendering of the particles. If it's a heavy simulation, again, there's no point in resimulating every time you want to do a test render. So again, cache your particles. That way you can go to any frame, you can just jump in your timeline, skip, and then test your renders. And you will save time, and also your client will get the same simulation that they asked for. Because if you by mistake change a number, or if you're using some sort of random values on the positioning or whatever of the particles, the simulations will look different every time you run them. So you have to be careful with that. So if you're working as a freelancer and you want to show things to your client, my advice to you is to cache the particles first before you show them. Because if you don't, and you have some sort of random expressions in there, the client will say, oh yeah, I like it, give me that one. And once you go back to open the scene to render it, it will behave differently. So cache first, then show to your client. If the client likes it, then you have the cache already. You don't have to touch the simulation anymore. It's a good practice to do so. And also, it's important if you're working locally, because sometimes, if you're using motion blur, remember that for motion blur, Maya needs the following frame to calculate the motion blur. So it needs the current frame and the next frame to calculate that. So if you have them cached, it's easier for Maya to deal with it. So those are the main reasons. Let's see if Shabana, question from Shabana. That's great. And Julius, you're here, so I'm starting to answer your questions. Julius, you missed the first one, but it's in the recording, so by all means, I'll publish it tonight, and you can watch it. So Shabana is asking, will particles be simulated fast using GPU? Is actually GPU available? Yeah, good question. GPU on Maya is not available as a simulation tool. Is not. Will they be faster? Yeah, definitely. I think since like most things on the GPU, I'm taking the example of RealFlow. The new RealFlow has GPU acceleration. And the tendency, of course, everything I've seen run through the GPU is always faster. So I will say yes, but the thing is, Maya doesn't have it available for simulation. Maya will have it available, obviously, as hardware render. Okay, so then rendering through the hardware, the video card will be faster, and also having maybe I'm going off the tangent, but having a strong video card will definitely help you move your particles faster on the screen. Sometimes the issue, or part of the issue, where simulations take a long time, sometimes it's because it's hard for the video card to draw all the particles around. So softwares like RealFlow have the ability to disable the viewport, the drawing of particles, and that gives you a speed up of 20% sometimes, of your time. Maya doesn't have that. What I tend to do, and it's a good trick, if you're gonna run a heavy simulation in Maya, then before you hit the play key to simulate, if you're caching or whatever, if you're caching especially, look away, move your camera away from the particles. At the end of the day, if you're caching, you don't need to see them as they've been simulated, because that will slow things down a little bit. I've seen that if I move my camera and I look at nothing, the particles will simulate the same way, exactly the same way, but it will be a little bit faster. So that is a little tip from me there. Keep them coming, Shabana. That's good. I like it. We're moving forward good. Next question from Julius is, what is SOUP and where we can learn more? Good, man. It's a shame because I was in conversations with Peter. Peter Shipkoff is the brain behind, one of the brains behind SOUP, or the main guy behind SOUP. For those of you who don't know what SOUP is, I maybe even have it here. There you go. It's a pretty nifty set of tools for Maya. The idea behind it, okay, and I hope if Peter watches this and I'm mistaken, please correct me, but I believe that the reason behind SOUP was Peter and his friends or his guys are Maya guys like me, okay, so I'm a very old school Maya guy. There is no way in this world that someone will sell me Houdini in any way. I won't touch it or get near that thing in my life. I don't believe in it. I have my personal reasons, okay, why I don't trust and I don't like Houdini at all. So I'm not alone in the industry in that feeling, okay, regardless of what people think. So it came that you find yourself in a studio, you find yourself in a team that is divided, okay, and it tends to be always this uncomfortable conversations back and forth between the two teams, and I don't know, it's a very annoying thing. The reason behind it is that Houdini claims to have certain tools that Maya doesn't have, and because of that, they think that is the tool to use, which I don't believe that. And I can see that the SOUP guys either, because they managed to develop this, what is called SOUP, which is open source, it's free for everybody to download. It is a set of tools. If you go to the example, many things, okay, from wavelet turbulence for uprising of fluids, as you can see here. I'm not going to go through all of them, of course, but you can just kind of check it out, this website, scroll over this long list of tools that they have. Not all of them are related to dynamics, to dynamics, but they're quite nice, and basically they rely a lot. They basically took what Houdini has that Maya doesn't have, and they managed to add it, natively. Like I said, it's free. And Julius, if you want, I was talking to Peter because we wanted to do a SOUP course for VFX Learning, but he's been very busy keeping up with this and his regular job, so that never came to fruition. But I know that these guys have a wiki, first of all, which I don't know how updated this thing is. Sometimes it's showing the new icons, which is good. this has some good information, and I know that there's some guys, Jeremy, some of the other guys have been doing videos in Vimeo. I believe they have a channel, if I'm not mistaken, sub channel of Vimeo. There we go. So yeah, the Jimmy. Well, this is weird. This guy was a student of mine. But there's some the Jeremy from New Zealand. There's a few guys that volunteer for this, and they have done some videos. I don't know how many they have. I will assume that this is the best way to go to begin. It's not hard at all, man. It's one shelf with 3 buttons. And it's just some nodes that you have to know how to plug together. I have the hope, and it's been on the wish list for Maya for a year, that they will implement this natively in Maya, so it's not a plugin anymore. It's built in inside and streamlined a little bit. It has come a long way. We have used it in production, and you know, there's a lot of studios that you go and the sub shelf is already loaded for you, so it's quite handy. It's a very good tool, definitely. So there you go. Well, there's not much in the exclusive for the wiki. Yeah, I mean, it's a volunteer project, you know. So you gotta take the information from the videos. I think it's more important from the videos, and then go from there. Just practice. Yeah. Let's see. Shavana saying, please give me a few tips to make fireworks. Right. All right. So no problem. Let's see how fast I can do this. So polyplane to emit. I'm going to use this. So I'm going to use this as my particle emitter. So I'm going to go particles, emit from object, make sure to use surface in this case, and hit create. Then I'm going to grab my emitter and I'm going to give them some speed. Okay, so they shoot up. Let's say that this is my ground and the rockets are going this way. So what I'll do is just give them some velocity, and then, you know, remember that speed, the normal speed, okay, is based. The normal of this plane is pointing up, as I see here. So I'm gonna use the normal speed mixed with this speed. Remember that these two guys multiply each other to shoot these guys up in the air. So, and I'm gonna give these particles some life. I don't want them to live forever. I want them to live randomly. Let's say a random from between 1.5, between 1 and 2 seconds, let's say. Might be too much, but let's see. So that will give me way too much, and way too much speed. So, well, it's okay. We can fix this. So let's say they're gonna live between 0.75, so between 0.5 and 1 they will live. Okay, that should be okay. I'm going to take the plane. I'm going to do a couple of cosmetic things. I'm going to take my plane here and I'm going to scale it so it's a bit longer. Okay, and I'm going to reduce the rate of particles because, you know, so too many rockets, it makes no sense. So I'm going to do probably 10 per second, and that's a lot. Let's see if, well, this works. Okay, so let's say that that's first step 1 will be this. I'm not going to go over like making forces and all that. You can do that yourself, but as far as the emission, I think is the best, you know, the part that needs the most attention. So here we go. So I get my rockets going over there, which I'm going to make for you just so you can see them easier. I'm going to make them spheres. You could go in an instance, a piece of geometry that looks like a rocket, you know, by all means, anything you want. So there we go. So again, my step 1. Rockets that die someplace there, okay? What you want to do is before the rocket dies, you want it to emit another particle system. So I'm going to grab my spheres and I'm going to emit from them. Emit from object. This time is an omni emitter, and then I'm going to hit create. That makes another particle system that gets emitted out of these guys with a rate. You have to be careful with this. A rate of 10. Remember that each particle becomes an emitter, so be careful with the rate. By default, just does trails like this. I don't know if you can see here, but so by default, I get trails, which is one part of the rocket. I mean, of the actual firework itself. You know, you will probably want to have a trail of sparks and little smoke, and then before they die, you get the bang and you get the big thing. So I'm gonna try to see if I can do the whole thing. So I'm gonna do a bit of a random range in here as well. Okay, 0.5. I'm going to increase the amount of if it's going to be a trail first of something. I'm not going to render this or anything. So, but let's say 100 particles a second, and I'm going to make these particles inherit a little bit of the velocity of the rocket itself, so they don't get born and stay still in midair. It looks kind of weird. So I'm going to go and do that. Okay, so that's step one. You can do many things. Okay, you can grab this and give them a little bit more speed. Okay, a random speed random. I don't have anything, so let's just give them a little bit. Byte of 2. And like I said, you can plug here a little turbulence field or something. So, but I'm not gonna do it because it's just gonna add to it. But you know what I mean. So right now you have that bit. Okay, so you can render these things as smoke, for example. Okay, so you leave a little trail of smoke. Okay, so there you go. You got your rocket. So now, right before they die, I want the rocket itself. We could rename these guys. Let's say rocket, and then you can say this one will be called trail. I want the rocket to emit another particle system. So I'm going to grab my rockets, and I'm going to go particles, emit from object, done. These guys are going to be the firework itself. And I'm gonna hit play here, so you get basically what I'm getting is double trails, okay? But this time I'm gonna grab this emitter on the rocket particles, okay? So I should probably name this firework emitter, and I name this trail emitter. I want my firework emitter to behave differently. So what I want to do is first of all, I need to be able to emit my firework on a per particle basis. Okay, I don't want to. I want each particle to be able to control how many particles and when they are emitted. So to do that is easy. You know, you just grab the emitter and then go on their particles, and then you're gonna use a per point emission rate. This is basically has the ability now to emit particles on command. So that's what I'm gonna do. And then if you go to the attributes for the particles, for the rocket particles, you will see that I have now an attribute called firework emitter rate per particle. Okay, so this is going to be the way to go. So, excuse me. What I will do here is plug a ramp. You can do many different ways you can do this, but this one seems to be flexible for people. I'll plug a ramp and I go and edit this. This ramp, remember that the moving from bottom to top is based on the age of the particle. So when they're born, they're down here. When they die, they're right here. But this ramp is at the same time controlling the rate. Okay, so if you think about it, the rate of the particle, if I look at this image, it says that when they're born, the rate is 1, and as they get older, the rate is 0. Not exactly what I want, but near. Okay, so what I want is to have the inverse of this. Okay, so I want particles to have no emission as they actually. This is so cool that you can even think of them as going from the floor up, right, in height almost. You know, you can think of this. So I want them to not emit anything, but right before they die, to give a bang. And I'm also going to take the interpolation of this ramp and I'm going to set it to nothing, so it's a sharp line, so I can really see. You know, I want an explosion. Basically, is what you want, right? So this means that the particles are born or at the floor, in this case, and they travel and they get older. Right before they die, they go from no emission. Now that Julius is here, I'm going to close the email. I kept it open because I was wondering if you had a problem logging in or something. So yeah, as they get older and travel up, they will emit, and they go from 0 to 1, and I know that is 1 because it's white, but I can go in and take the value of this, because remember that is the rate. A rate of 1 is nothing. And I can take my value and then set it to, for example, 1000. Okay. Don't think of this as color. Think of this as numbers, values. So this is super white or whatever you want to call it, but it's actually values, not real numbers. And then I'm going to grab my firework particles, and those I'm going to connect to some field. So just to so you can see the difference. So I'm gonna grab this and I'm gonna plug it to some turbulence with no attenuation. You know the drill. 25. And I'm gonna make them. I'm also going to plug them to a gravity field. And I'm also going to give them some sort of lifespan. So I'm going to give them also a random range. Let's say 1. And let's put it here 2. So they live for quite a bit of time. And I'm going to take the fireworks emitter and I'm going to give these guys a big bang. So a lot of explosion, a lot of velocity when they're born. So I'm going to take the speed and I'm going to put that to 10 with a 5 of random. So actually let's do 20 with a 5 of random. Okay, so random speed. So they get pushed out quite nicely. And I'm going to make the fireworks just so you can see them differently. I'm going to make them, instead of points, I'm going to make them streaks. So here we go. I think this should do the trick. So now let's rewind. And let's play this back. You get that, and then bam. That's fireworks in what, 5 minutes it took? I mean, obviously we have to clean this up quite a bit, but what I like about this method is that you have now absolute control. And you know how I like to work by now. You know me for 3-4 months already with me in this course. You know that I like to make a little rig, a little setup, so I can very easily control how many particles on my trail I can emit, how many rockets I can emit, how much fireworks I want to emit and what happens to them very easily. And the best part of all of it is that I can just very quickly, and I can do this hooked up to a locator like we do for the rain or anything, but I can specify in seconds when during the life of the particle the firework is going to be born. If you want something funky, okay, like, you know, let's say that you want the rocket to emit the fireworks here, or you want to do some sort of Harry Potter magical fireworks that, you know, explodes 3 or 4 times easily, you know, as long as you go from black to white, to black to white, you can do whatever you want here. So here you go. So now halfway, or, you know, let's say 60% through the life, and it's very precise. So you can have a very picky director, a very picky supervisor, and tells you, you know, I think about 73% of the life of the firework I want to get the bang. It's so precise that I could easily go here and say on their position, I can say, well, 0.73, that is 73%, and I can just go in and say, okay, well, that is exactly 73% of the life of this rocket, you get the bang. And it says, oh, but I need you to give me 15 times more particles, for example. Easy. I can grab my color, go to the value that is 1,000, but just for the sake of speed of the class, I'm going to say that my client told me that he wants 3.5 times more particles. So I go from 1,000 to 3,500. It's that precise. Okay, so you can have a very crazy client in this. You can still accommodate for him. So here you go. I'm going to select the fireworks so you can see them better. So here we go. You will say, well, let's see what you say first. And then, so you like that technique? Is it good? Is it understood? I did it very, very quickly, so I hope it helps. Let me just see what Shabana... All right, excellent. Now, there is... okay, that's great. Glad to help. There is also, Maya comes with something. I like to do mine, and then I like to show you the other one. So the other one is is one that comes with Maya. So you go create poly plane. Okay, you move that to this side, and scale it if you want. Okay, so this is my other one. You grab this guy, and then you go to the effects menu, and you have create fireworks. So you click in here, and then you have basically what I did, but you're already finished, okay, with all the controls and everything. But basically you get all these things, and then you hit create, and then it does a bunch of magic, and now you get something fancy. But it's pretty much the same thing, but it's already set up with the dynamics, multi-streaks, and blah blah blah. But here's my fireworks setup. I can just rewind this and move it, I believe. I thought you needed geometry for it, but you don't. So here, grab your fireworks node, which if you open it, this group has similar stuff. Okay, so it has a couple of locators for controlling certain things, the kind of stuff that we will do by hand. Okay, so you have some nothing in there, but this one might have something. If not, the controls are up here. So how much trail, where do you put it, where do you explode it, basically the kind of stuff that I told you we can do ourselves as well. And there we go. So here's your fireworks as well with one click. Of course, you might want to, I will recommend you to do it yourself and, figure out your own controls and your own ways. But if you need something quick, there you go. You have it. So, beautiful. Let's see what else. Okay, let me see. I don't see any questions. You don't have to wait for me to ask. You can just keep typing them in there. Let me see if Julius had some other question on his email. Lastly, where will we start tackling creating these similar scenes? Well, let's see. I haven't seen the video. Well, let's see what it is. All right, let's see what it is. I'm very excited. Okay. Well, for example, this kind of stuff, okay, the first two parts, the color of the particles, you already know how to do this based on the inheriting color from a texture. If it's a specific shape that you need to, reveal with particles like this, then you will need a piece of geometry to emit from, and then inherit the texture or the color from that geometry to color your particles. To reveal them, there are many ways. I mean, you could play with the goal U and the goal V of the particles, for example, and then slowly or kill particles that are above certain goal, for example. I cannot replicate this because we don't have enough time, but basically you have your particles go to that surface, they inherit the color of the surface, they're emitted off the same surface, but then you kind of kill all the particles that are on the edges, okay, based on the goal U and the goal V. And then slowly, using either a locator or an expression, you can just start letting them live longer and longer. That will make them reveal themselves as you pan out. Similar to what we did with the tanks, where we had goal 0 here, goal 1 on the end of the plane, and then we were killing the tanks at the end when they reached the end. Basically, you can say, well, if the particles are born in the middle, you can say only let them live if they are between goal V or goal U, for example, between 0.45 and 0.55. That will leave them, for example, in the middle. And then you can slowly add to this side and add to that side, and they will start to show up and start to reveal themselves. That is one way. Sometimes this kind of stuff is not even geometry. This is just, for example, a turbulence field with no animation on the face. For example, they tend to do this kind of stuff. If you do like very low frequency turbulence fields, they can do these kind of things. Let's see. And yeah, he says he has 6 million particles. That's why it looks kind of smoky, even though it's just points. So nothing special there. You could draw curves as well and have the particles take that kind of shape. But yeah, this is just like a noise pattern to me, like a well, depends. You could have the geometry, the curves already drawn for you, cylinders and all, in the mid of the geometry, and do what I'm saying with the revealing, the color is inherited definitely from the surface. You can just map it. With this, you can use goals as well. There's nothing special here, honestly. You can go particles to a piece of geometry that is modeled in that way, That's what's happening here, definitely. So you can take curves and draw curves around, and then extrude circles over and make tubes, and then put your particles in there. To do this kind of stuff is no biggie. You can just use a radial field with a negative magnitude, so it sucks particles to a point, and then keyframe it the inverse so it pushes them back out. So there's nothing fancy in here. These are just layers of the rendering. Oh, and the comp that he's using. So nothing worth of, I mean, nothing that we covered in this course, but it's more of a compositing thing in rendering. So that is that one. I'm not trying to trivialize his work today, whoever made this video. I'm not saying that. I'm just trying to give you quick shortcuts as fast as I can to how to achieve that. Okay, so I don't mean to be disrespectful. And this video doesn't work, so if you have the link to the second one, send it back to me. I'll check it out. Who's this? I don't know. I guess these are images or something. Let me see. So this reminds me of the first week of this course, the galaxy stuff that we're doing, right? So a cylinder with a nice texture, a texture for emission, put your particles in there, use color accumulation, place some particles by hand. Let's see, this is a bit slow to download. Let's see if I can. Particles don't have any forces, you just move through them. You did this personally, I think you did, Julius, this yourself on the first week of class or second week. So nothing here, the particles are not moving, it's the camera that's moving. So you can have a static emission. This is just a variation of that technique, so it's just more of a three-dimensional, more geometry. You could do like a paint effect like we did on that one, emit particles of that, Be creative to put these colorful bits. Those are separate pieces of geometry with different, attributes. Different texture for color inheritance. So there doesn't have to be one particle system, all of it. So split into 2 or 3 particle systems, you can get this kind of stuff. Yeah, it seems like it's all about the same, right? So it's just about how creative you want to get, how your geometry is. But this is, I see this and I don't see the particles. I see a piece of geometry behind it, like a piece of tree or something, right? With an interesting texture that you can paint by hand to get more control, okay? Separate into multiple particle systems, you get creative. Huh? These are bigger points, for example, down here, where these ones are smaller and more of them to get more of a smoky look. It has a bit of a haze everywhere. Star field in the back. So I believe we covered this kind of stuff on the first week of the course. So hopefully that will help you, send you in the right way. A few examples of what I could be done using particles. Well, actually, I think we just saw them. The stuff that Julius was sharing with us are good examples. I have other examples, which I don't know. I believe I showed you guys last week. Let me see what else Well, on my reel, if you watch my reel, you will see there is. You can do sand, you can do water, you can do instance geometry on it. So basically, the kind of stuff, all the galaxy space stuff, is definitely done with particles. Don't think you cannot do water with particles. You can definitely do water with just particles. It's a good way to go. I figure that we won't have time to set something similar. I thought it was a fluid simulation. It doesn't have to be a fluid simulation. That's the thing. This can be easily done with particles. So the stuff you show me, I believe you're talking about, Julius. It doesn't have to be fluids. It can be easily done with particles, and it's actually probably better to be done with particles. And if it's done with fluids, you probably use particles as emitters anyway. So it definitely is worth trying. Fluids, you have to watch level 2 to catch on that. There's a different monster on its own. But that kind of stuff you can achieve volumetrics with points only. You just need lots of them, millions of points. But it's definitely doable. All right, I have time for probably one more question, and before I have to jump to my next session. Anything else? Okay, I think Julius just wrote something. Well, in the meantime, I'll just say, while Julius gives me his last question, this is the last session, last class of this course. I hope you enjoyed it. There's a lot of stuff to do, so take your notes. Um, Try to remember, everything, and the community will remain open. Try to use it. Talk to other people in your classroom. There will be new because we have new courses coming up. There will be new students coming in, so post your stuff, and people will give you comments, and vice versa. Get critical eye, help other people. So yeah, the community is going to be definitely a good resource for you. Let's see what Julius put in here. He puts a video. Let's see if I can open it. And you're saying, how many days will the recording be put up on the website? Well, the recording will go live. They take a while, but they might go live. But tonight, right now for me, it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So by the time I go to sleep tonight, late at night, it should probably be up. If not, by tomorrow morning my time, which if you're in America, then it's about, midnight or something for you. So between that range, and then it will stay up for another, let's say another week, maximum. So so yeah, you have about a week to watch. Anyway, it's just this class. I believe you already seen all the recordings for this level before. Starting a new course right now, well, you give it a try, but it's so much work that, watch the recordings and get some notes, but I don't think it's going to be enough time. I believe the courses will come back as pay-per-view. That's one of the plans that I have, given that people didn't want to contribute to the open source thing. So I'm setting something up to see if I can make them pay-per-view. And then we're going to keep offering courses, everything combined, all the courses that we made into one course called the FX Technical Director course. So, do what you can. But yeah, I think about a week, one more week of with the videos up. Let's see what this is. I don't know if you've seen, I see this and I want to show you something. These are examples, Shabana, you were asking of things you can do with particles. I don't know if you've seen them, but I do have one that it has some similar, I'm just saying similar kind of thing, okay? So there's another one here, this one here. Okay, that's the kind of stuff you can do with particles as well. I don't know what this is. Yep. Kind of reminded me a little what you just showed me, Julius. Yeah, I mean the kind of stuff in the YouTube video. Let me just bring it back up. This to me is more of the same. It's more of the same. This is particles go to a piece of geometry. If you were to use particles, you probably just use a texture on a piece of geometry. You have no dynamics anyway. But that's basically that. But the beginning part kind of reminded me of what I just showed you. You can see it here clearly, right? It's an emitter with a texture that gives you stripes of particles, and you color them depending on whatever velocity, or use a fancy expression if you want it, okay? Sometimes, yeah, if you want to get more, like I said, I'm trying to simplify things for you, but you could do, if you watch my level, let me think 1 second, I think it's level 3, okay, the master class towards the end. I can't remember the exact week, but I think it's week 10. I do a test there where I take a fluid simulation and then I advect particles over it, and then I extract data from the fluid simulation and put it onto the particle, particularly color. So I could have a fluid simulation that has the colors that this has, that moves like fire, for example, and then I can emit particles, move them with the motion of the fluid, and have the particles take the color of the fluid. So it's a fluid sim, but at the same time you're rendering as points. It's a bit more complicated, but I did cover that on level 3, week 10, I think. Somewhere there, between 9 and 11, somewhere around that point is the class. So, that is more of that. But if you wanted to simplify, you try what you can. Okay, so this can be an emitter with a ramp or some color attached to it, with a texture that gives them stripes like this. Put some sort of force field to move them around. and then have them change color as they get older, or they don't even change color, they just mix. So this could easily be done that way. A nice texture, animated texture at the bottom, and done. Excellent. Well, I mean, like I said, I'm just trying to see. So we won't be able to access the videos if we need to. What? No, you won't. You won't. That wasn't part of the plan any time. You will be able to access them again if you buy the what is called the digital download version. So I guess people watching these recordings might need to know, but if you go to our website down here, then you have a few options. You can you can either buy this, which is digital download. It will allow you to download then all the recordings and keep them at home. Or you can do this one for those of you who have slow internet connections and you cannot download because it's quite a bit of data. To download all the courses, I probably think it will be good, a good 30-40 gigs, to download. So for some people that's a lot. So this version, the pen drive, I will mail you a little USB pen drive with everything in it. Everything meaning all the recordings of the course plus all the supporting documents, all the scene files and track plates and all the stuff that I gave you over the length of the course. So that is the plan. So you have about 1 more week to watch the stuff in here. I did warn people online. I did try to make it better, but I cannot really afford this thing. We have about 105,000 views in 4 months of these videos, and we don't collect any contributions from people. So we cannot keep them online. It's not fair for us. So that's basically the reason. So for those of you who want to keep them for reference, this material down the road, like I said, you can download them here. And I think I'm gonna put them as pay-per-view soon, once I complete the stuff that I'm doing with them. So that could be another option. So yeah, there you go. On our website, you can use these choices here. We already started selling this quite a bit, the pen drive as well. So it's right there. It's very easy. You select it, click it, you're done. And I will basically what's going to happen today. I'm finishing everything. So today I'm finishing all the English lessons of all the levels. So I'm assuming that the people can begin downloading things next week. No problem. All right. Well, it's time for me to jump to my next class. I'm actually 3 minutes late. So Julius and Shabana, and Rafe and the other guys who didn't make it to this class, I hope you watched this recording. Thank you. I hope this worked for you and was helpful. Remember, use the community quite a bit. I'm going to try to come in as much as I can. I just have way too many students to accommodate everybody. But try to use it, and I'll do my best to give you comments. No, thank you for coming, Julius. Thank you, Shabana. Well, have a good one and good luck. Okay, see you around. Keep checking our website. Okay, sorry, before I just finish everything, keep checking our website because we do have our website is important to check, but I think our Facebook is even more important. Okay, so facebook.com/VFX Learning, because I do post here every news, any updates, everything goes in there. The new thing coming up is all these courses here called the case studies, okay, which basically I select, I have 6 hours of class divided into 3 to 4 lessons, I'm not sure yet. Some will be 3 classes of 90 minutes, some will be 4 classes of 90 minutes, some will be 3 classes of 2 hours, depending on how complicated the effect. But basically what you see on the banner, so the next one coming up next week, starts next week, is this one. I will do these 3 effects. Okay, I will show you how to start working on this, and I will give you scene files to try yourself. And then it's one every month, as you can see, for Tintin, Transformers, Harry Potter again, Battleship. So keep an eye on this if you're interested. These are shorter. They're only worth, I think it's $200 for the course. So if you want to continue training, then this is a good way to go. So yeah, there you go. Excellent. So have a good one, guys, and well, I'll see you soon. All right, take care.